I only moved down to the South a few years ago. I'm originally from Massachusetts, and that doesn't deserve any applause. No, it doesn't. No, it does not. But since I moved down here, I was never really religious. But I came here, and there's like a church every 30, 35 feet. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. So I decided to go to the church closest to my house, and it was the time to pray, right? So everybody's quiet. I'm like, all right, here we go. God, it's your boy. I don't know if you're real or not, and I never really believed in you, but if you show me a sign, I will walk every day in your life. I will live every moment just to spread your word. I will make sure. And then I felt like this tap on my shoulder, and I look over, and there's this elderly black woman, and she drops a plate of money into my lap. Right? So I look at her, I look at the plate. I look at her, I look at the plate. I look at her, I look at the plate. I look at her, I look at the plate. And I'm like, ma'am, what is your name? And she goes, oh, child, you know my name. So I'm just sitting there, and I'm looking at her. I'm looking at the sky. I look back at her, and she goes, my name's Alicia. So since that day, I have been just walking in Alicia's name. I got up, I put all $216.33 in my pockets in Alicia's name. I walked down through the pews in Alicia's name. I stiff-armed a priest trying to stop me in Alicia's name. And I got in my car that day, and I ran from the police in Alicia's name. And I'm not gonna lie, man, my life's been pretty good since then. It's been a pretty good time. Thank you. Yeah. So just in case you guys are wondering, what I do for work is I'm actually a chaperone for the school that my son goes to. So in case you're wondering if your kids are safe on a field trip, nah. Just gonna be honest with you now. So the most recent field trip we were going on, it was going to be to the zoo. So we had all the kids on the bus, and we had a little meeting with all the chaperones and the teachers, and they're going off the names of who you're going to be in charge of. I was going to be watching my son, two of his friends, some nerdy kid, and hey, what's up, man? And this last kid, who the only way I can describe him as is that he is someday going to be referred to as the active shooter. Come on, you guys know. If it's your kid, you know. You know. I didn't ask. I just looked at it. It was one of those things where, like, you make eye contact and you're like, oh, yeah. You got a future ahead of you, kid. It is what it is, Dave. I'm sorry. I don't make up the rules. I was born to shit, forced to wipe, man. It's a lot of hair. So as we're getting on the bus after we figured out who's watching which kids, I decided I'm going to pop an edible because I'm a professional. So by the time we got down to the zoo, right, we're just walking through there. I'm doing excellent. I'm having the time of my life. I'm looking at peacocks and shit. These kids are just not paying attention. They're just running around like maniacs. Finally, we walk up to the exhibit, and it's just the monkey exhibit. And I see this orangutan, and he's signing that he's hungry. I know a little bit of sign language, so I'm looking at the kids like, guys, if I can get his attention, I might be able to make him do something cool. Do you want me to try? And they're all like, yeah, Mr. Zak, just try it. Go for it, Mr. Zak. I don't like using my last name. Mr. Blackfyre is my pretend dad's name, so they call me Mr. Zak. So I just spend the next 20 minutes just high as fuck, just trying to wave down this orangutan, seeing if I can get his attention. Like, I was getting so drastic where I almost threw that active shooter into the fucking zoo pit just to see if we can get a Cincinnati incident, you know? Finally, after about 10, 15 minutes, the monkey finally, like, makes eye contact with me. And I'm like, hey, did you learn how to sign? And he said, yes. So right here, I'm like, oh, here we go, kids, watch this. I'm like, hey, can you do anything cool? Can you, like, juggle or dance? He goes, he can't juggle, but he does know how to dance. And before I could even ask him to, he's like, I don't feel like dancing today. What the fucking kind of arrogance is that from a goddamn monkey? You're in a cage, man. Dance. But I was like, well, why not? And he goes, well, I'm a free ape. I'm like, you're in a cage, man. How are you free? He goes, no. You're in a cage. I'm free. So I was like, how? And I swear to God, man, this orangutan started slow walking towards us. I'm like, oh, kids, check this out. Here he comes. They're all like face to the plexiglass, just checking him out and shit. And I swear to God, man, it was like a John Woo movie. I saw doves flying in the background, everything. So this monkey's just walking. He gets within 3 feet of us. And he's just like staring at the kids. And he looks up at me. And just started jerking off. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. I had to scoop these kids up by the armloads, trying to move them and shit. The nerdy kid was just like, hey, what is he doing? I'm like, that's a free ape. He does whatever the hell free apes want to do. Come on, guys, let's go. And that serial killer kid was just like, yeah, I caught my brother being a free ape on the couch with the dog last night. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, let's not free that ape. That one's going to be a problem. That's going to be like the Planet of the Apes, only the X-rated one. Would it be like the Playmate of the Apes? I got you, Dave. Alright, I got one more story for you guys, and the only reason I'm telling this one is because I'm pretty sure if I was going to get busted for this, it would have happened by now. So I'm feeling pretty confident. So this was last year, and it was right at the end of all the COVID bullshit where all the restrictions were finally getting lifted up and everything, right? And my kid was bored out of his mind. He's still doing virtual learning, that bullshit. And he was just like having a bad day. So I'm like, hey, little man, you want to go to the park? He was like, hell yeah, let's go. We get in the car, we head down to the park. And as we were walking, he sees the playground, so he immediately just takes off. He starts running his ass off towards it. I see this other kid on the other side of the fence, and he's also running, like, parallel with my son. So before I could even say anything, they collide, right? So I walk up there, and I'm like, hey, you guys okay? You okay, little man? He's like, yeah. I looked at my son. I'm like, you all right, man? He goes, yeah, I'm good. I'm like, all right, so just apologize, and just let's pay attention to where we're running, right? Accidents happen. I see this guy walk towards me. He's wearing khakis, a white button-up shirt, a sports jacket, no tie, and a black face mask. I'm wearing cargo pants, a white t-shirt, a black zip-up, and I have the same exact black face mask on. That's important for later, you'll figure it out. So he immediately starts causing a scene. He's like, why did your kid run into mine? And if my kid's hurt, we're gonna have some problems. And like, as he's going off, I can see his phone ringing. And like, I'm already pissed. And he looks at the phone and then looks at me and goes, it's people like you and your son that ruin the day for everyone else. Yeah, pissed. Pissed, Dave. I looked at him and I'm like, I'm about to connect this man to Alicia's Wi-Fi. I swear. Pissed. So now I gotta figure out, how do I let this man decide that we just ended up on the news tonight? And as I'm doing that, I hear like the sniffling in the background, and I look down, my kid's upset. He thinks it's his fault, right? Like, I'm a decent parent. Like, if Good's here, I'm like right here. Can we admit that that's good?
Yeah. It's okay.
Decent? I'm not like the best, but I get the job done, right? So I'm like, all right. I push my kid on the swings for a while. We go to the merry-go-round. I throw him around that a few times. And after about 10 minutes, I'm like, all right, man, I'm going to go sit at that picnic table. And don't worry, I watch you, and if there's any problems, just give me the hand signal. So, I probably shouldn't tell you guys this, but it's funny anyway. Our hand signal is, my son's 7. He just looks at me and goes, doesn't matter where he is, I know there's a problem, I come. So I'm like, any problems, just, throw the hand signal up, I'm watching. And I got to admit, a lot of parents do not watch their kids at the park. You guys are taking selfies for #bless, scrolling right on Tinder or Grindr for some of you folks. Grinder, you like that? Fucking improv up here. What is this shit?
It's your new, dude. That's your millions.
You're right. It could be. Everybody, just forget that you heard the Twinder thing. Okay. Everybody, just put that out of your mind. That's mine for later.
That's your millions.
Not copyrighted.
It is now.
I have an iPad. It is now.
Oh shit. That's mine.
Yeah.
Now, where the fuck were we? Grinder. You're doing everything except watching your kids, right? I actually watch my kid play because it's really easy when you're just sitting there smoking a blunt. I don't care about playing on my phone the whole time. So I'm just sitting there smoking, having a good time watching them. And then after a little while, I saw this kid just throwing up gang signs to my son. The kid was just like, I have no idea what the fuck it is, so I just ignore it. I keep smoking, having a good time. And eventually I hear this kid getting louder and louder with my son. And my kid the entire time is just looking down. And he finally, like, just staring down, just taking it. And finally I just see this. I just see... Yeah, game time. So I put my blunt out because I'm a decent parent. I throw my black face mask on and I start walking to these kids. I'm like 10 feet away. This kid shoves my son to the ground. Yeah. I walk right up to that little girl. It gets worse. I grab her by her shirt and pick her up to eye level and I just start shaking her. And I'm like, listen, my son's been through enough shit today. He doesn't need bullies like you making his life worse. But like, as I was shaking her, her fucking useless legs kind of knocked over her wheelchair. Oh, you guys were all on board before. You guys turn on people in a heartbeat. I swear to God. So her useless legs knocked over her wheelchair, right? I'm a decent parent, so I'm sitting there holding her. I'm like, fuck. So I use my other hand. I pick up the wheelchair. I dust it off for her. And I plop her down. I look around. Still, no parents are paying attention. So I'm like, shit, I can actually get away with this. I'm looking around, and nobody's paying attention. I get right in her face, and I'm like, listen, if I ever see you bullying my kid again, I swear to God, I'm going to beat you so bad that your legs work. And after you take your first steps, I'm going to put your ass back in that fucking wheelchair. You remember who I am. My name is James Prouty. And I'm like, God, say it. She's like, James Prouty, James Prouty. I don't know, it's hard to understand. She had these hearing aids on. It sounded like guttural responses when she was fucking yelling into the fucking shit, you know? I didn't know any better. So, we get in the car and we start leaving, right? And my son's just like really confused. I'm like, hey, what's wrong, man? And he goes, thank you so much for saving me from that cyborg. He watches Teen Titans, so he knows what a cyborg is. And I'm like, hey man, not a problem. I got your back until the end of time. And he goes, all right, well, how do I beat him in the future? And I was like, I really don't want my wife to find out about this. What do I do? All right, so the way you beat cyborgs is to never fucking talk about today. That's how you beat them. So I'm not in jail, so apparently James Prouty is. Fuck him. Thanks, guys. That's my time.
Please put your hands together for Zak. Yes, sir, buddy.